Have you ever looked around your life, your job, your house, your relationships, and thought, I should be happier than this? Like, logically, everything's okay. You've got responsibilities handled. You're not 25 and scrambling anymore. But inside, it's like, the spark is gone. The days blur together. You're showing up, doing what needs to be done, but the energy, the joy, feels like it slipped out the back door somewhere between your third Zoom meeting and folding laundry at midnight. If that sounds even a little familiar, you're not alone. They call it the midlife slump, but let's be honest, it feels less like a slump and more like a fog. A quiet heaviness that settles in around 40, when society tells us we should already have it all figured out. And if you don't, you start asking yourself, is this it? Is this what the next 30 years are supposed to look like? But here's the truth, just because you've hit the middle stretch doesn't mean you're stuck. In fact, this might be the perfect time to rediscover yourself, not who you were at 20, but who you really are now. In this video, we're going to talk about 6 powerful ways to find joy and motivation again. These aren't big, overwhelming life changes. They're small, real steps that can help you reconnect with your energy, your purpose, and most importantly, yourself. So let's ease into this together. Picture this, it's 7 a.m. The alarm's gone off twice already. You're dragging your body out of bed, groaning a little because your back didn't magically fix itself overnight. You scroll your phone for a minute. You see someone's vacation in Bali, someone's lost 10 pounds in 3 weeks, update, and someone's inspirational quote about chasing dreams. You toss the phone aside and head into your day feeling behind. Already. Here's the first shift that might seem obvious, but almost nobody actually does it. Instead of checking your phone the second you wake up, try spending just 5 minutes with yourself. Before the outside world rushes in. Sit quietly, stretch your body, drink a glass of water. Ask yourself, what's one small thing I want to feel today? Not accomplished to feel. Maybe you want to feel calm, or confident, or just not exhausted. That single moment of intention sets a tone. And that tone is everything. Because when you're always reacting, emails, texts, notifications, you're letting other people write your emotional story for the day. But when you pause, even for a few minutes, you get to pick up the pen. I worked with a client once, let's call her Anna, who was 46, ran a household of 4, worked full-time, and felt like she was living the same Tuesday over and over again. We didn't overhaul her life. We just started with a 10-minute morning ritual. No phone. Just coffee on the balcony and a journal prompt. What do I need most today? Within 3 weeks, she told me she felt like her brain had more room. More clarity. Like she'd cracked a window open in a stuffy room she hadn't realized she'd been sitting in for years. Now, that brings us to something deeper. You know that phrase, midlife crisis? It makes it sound like one day you wake up, buy a red convertible, and start dating someone half your age. But in reality, the crisis is often quieter. It looks like feeling emotionally flat, even when life looks good on paper. It's not that you don't care, it's that you don't feel anything deeply anymore. And sometimes, that's because everything in your life is routine. Now, routine can be comforting, but too much of it numbs us. So here's a question, when was the last time you tried something for the first time? I don't mean something huge like moving across the country. I mean something as small as trying a new food, walking a different path, or signing up for a class just because it sounded fun. When we stop exploring, our brain goes into energy-saving mode. That means fewer dopamine hits, less mental stimulation, and, yes, less joy. Joy often comes not from the big events, but from the newness. The aliveness. So if you've been feeling stuck, here's an experiment. Once a week, do something your Tuesday self wouldn't expect. Go to a pottery class. Learn salsa. Try cold water swimming. Yes, really. It's not about being good at it. It's about reminding yourself, I'm still growing. I'm still becoming someone. And before you say you're too tired, believe me, I get it. The fatigue is real. But here's a hard truth wrapped in kindness. Often, we're not just tired because we're doing too much. We're tired because we're doing too little of what actually excites us. Let that sink in. One client of mine, David, was 42 and burned out from his corporate job. But what lit him up was music. He hadn't touched his guitar in over a decade. We made a deal. He'd play one song a day after work. That was it. No big goals. Just reconnecting. Within a month, he said he felt more human again. And that energy? It started to ripple into every other area of his life. You don't need to blow up your schedule. You just need to plug a little life back in. And that leads us to something we often don't talk about enough in midlife, the role of fun. Seriously. When was the last time you had fun for no reason? Not because your kid had a birthday. Not because you were hosting friends. Just fun for you? Midlife doesn't have to be a spreadsheet of responsibilities. You're still allowed to laugh until your stomach hurts, dance in the kitchen, or spend a weekend building a pillow fort, if that's your thing. When you intentionally reintroduce joy into your week, even a little, it becomes a habit. A muscle you build. And over time, it becomes easier to feel alive again, even on the hard days. Because here's the truth, you're not too old to feel passionate. You're not too late to change direction. You're not behind. You're at a turning point, and that's a powerful place to be. One of the most surprising things I've learned from talking to hundreds of people in their 40s is this: so many of us are quietly grieving something we can't quite name. Maybe it's the version of ourselves we thought we'd be by now. Maybe it's the freedom we once had, or the dreams we packed away in exchange for stability. Sometimes it's the realization that our parents are aging, our kids don't need us the same way, or that we've been so busy being everything for everyone that we forgot how to be something just for ourselves. This grief isn't loud. It doesn't knock you over. It just lingers. Like a fog you can't shake, a low hum beneath the surface of your day. And when we ignore it, it drains us. Slowly. Silently. But here's the good news, that grief is also a signal. It's your inner self saying, hey, I'm still here. I miss you. And one of the most healing things you can do in this chapter of life is reconnect with yourself, your values, your voice. This might sound a little abstract, so let me give you something simple to start with. Try this question: what am I pretending not to want? That's a tough one. Most of us are experts at pushing our wants to the side. We've trained ourselves to be practical, efficient, responsible. Wanting something that doesn't fit neatly into the to-do list? That can feel indulgent. But when you ignore what you want long enough, you lose touch with your why. And when you lose your why, it's hard to find motivation for anything, even the things you have to do. So take a breath. Grab a notebook. Sit somewhere quiet. Ask yourself honestly, without judgment, what am I pretending not to want? You might be surprised by what comes up. One woman I coached, Marissa, 48, said she hadn't thought about writing in years. She used to write poetry in her 20s, but life got busy. She told herself it wasn't practical, that she had no time, no talent, no point. But when she finally admitted she missed it, something shifted. She didn't quit her job to become a poet. She just started writing again, 10 minutes a night, for herself. It changed everything. Her energy. Her self-respect. Even her relationships. Sometimes, honoring your joy is the most responsible thing you can do. And that brings me to something deeply personal, and maybe uncomfortable. Let's talk about your environment. Not the mountains and trees, though yes, nature helps. I mean your daily surroundings. The energy in your home. Your office. The people you spend time with. The noise you let in. Midlife is a mirror. It reflects back what you've tolerated for years, sometimes without realizing it. You ever walk into a room and instantly feel tired? Or get off a phone call and feel heavier than before? That's not random. That's your nervous system picking up on what your mind has learned to ignore. At 40, your peace becomes more valuable than your performance. And one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is curating your energy. You don't have to cut people out dramatically or turn your life upside down. But maybe you stop saying yes when you mean not this time. Maybe you stop over-explaining yourself. Maybe you redesign one corner of your home to feel like a retreat: candles, music, a cozy chair, no screens. Tiny things, I know, but powerful. A friend of mine, Jason, hit a point where every day felt like a copy-paste of the one before. Same work grind. Same social circle that talked about the same complaints. One day, he made a choice: one silent walk a day in nature. Just 20 minutes. No podcasts. No calls. Just him and the wind. He called it his reset walk. 3 months in, he said it changed how he saw everything. He didn't leave his job. He didn't move to Bali. He just got quiet enough to hear himself again. And honestly, that's where joy starts. Not in the fireworks. In the quiet. In the moment you give yourself permission to want what you want, to feel what you feel, and to stop apologizing for taking up space. Now, this part might surprise you. One of the biggest mindset shifts that unlocks motivation in your 40s? Stop chasing more. Start choosing better. We've been sold this idea that happiness is always on the other side of more money, more success, more abs, more goals, more hustle. But often, what we really crave is depth. Not more friends, better conversations. Not more time, more presence in the time we already have. This is the decade where your definition of success gets rewritten. Not by society. By you. So ask yourself, what does better mean to me now? Is it better mornings with your partner? Better health, not to look good in a mirror, but to feel strong in your body? Better boundaries so you're not running on fumes every Friday? Because once you define your version of better, it becomes much easier to know what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. And if that sounds selfish, let me lovingly challenge that thought. Selfish is draining the people around you because you're living on empty. Choosing joy? Choosing meaning? Choosing your mental and emotional well-being? That's not selfish. That's leadership. That's modeling what it means to live with integrity. So if you've been waiting for permission, here it is. You're allowed to redesign your life. Not all at once. Not with a grand gesture. But with one decision at a time, one shift at a time, one choice that says, I matter. Because you do. And here's the beautiful thing about midlife, it's not a crisis. It's a crossroad. A chance to look at the map and ask, where do I really want to go from here? Not where you should go. Where you want to go. You've got enough experience now to know what drains you. You've earned the wisdom to know what lights you up. And you've got more power than ever to choose differently. Even if that first choice is just a cup of tea in silence. Or writing a line of poetry. Or walking away from the conversation that's been stuck on repeat. Joy doesn't always arrive in a big, dramatic moment. Sometimes, it comes in the quiet decision to come home to yourself. And that journey? It's one worth taking. You know, one of the most misunderstood parts of this chapter in life is the idea that change has to be dramatic. That if you're going to reclaim your spark, you have to sell everything, hike the Andes, or suddenly become a motivational speaker. But more often than not, the biggest shifts begin with the smallest questions. Like, what would my life look like if it felt a little lighter? That one question alone can open doors. And sometimes, the answer has less to do with doing more, and everything to do with releasing what's weighing you down. For many people I've worked with in their 40s, there's this invisible pressure to keep proving themselves. To keep saying yes because saying no feels like failure. But the truth is, the more you carry what isn't yours to hold, the harder it is to find your joy. There's this one story that stuck with me for years. A man in his late 40s, I'll call him Tom, came to me feeling like he was running on empty. He had a good job, decent health, and a loving family. On paper, life was fine. But he felt hollow. "I don't even know what I like anymore," he said. "I've been doing what I'm supposed to do for so long, I think I've forgotten who I am." We started simple. I asked him to write down every task, obligation, and responsibility he had in a week. Then, we put a star next to the ones that gave him energy, and a minus next to the ones that drained him. You can probably guess the results. The draining list was 3 times longer. But the thing that surprised him most? Many of the things on that list were things he didn't actually have to do. He had just gotten used to saying yes. That was the moment he realized he wasn't exhausted from life, he was exhausted from a version of life that no longer fit him. So we made a pact. Every week, he would let go of just one thing that no longer aligned with who he was or who he wanted to be. A meeting he didn't need to attend. A social obligation he dreaded. Even just the habit of checking emails at 10 p.m. He didn't replace those things with huge productivity goals. He replaced them with breath, with space, with things that made him smile. Within a few months, he wasn't just more energized, he was more present, more connected to his wife, more playful with his kids, more curious about his own dreams. All because he gave himself permission to let go. And that's really what this is about, isn't it? Joy doesn't always mean adding more to your plate. Sometimes, it's about clearing space to notice what's been there all along. Now, if you've been nodding along, maybe even feeling a little emotional, I want you to know something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you for feeling stuck, or numb, or tired. Midlife isn't a glitch in the system. It's a natural point where your soul starts craving something deeper. And that craving? That's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's your body saying, it's time to live on purpose again. So let's talk about purpose for a minute, not the big, pressure-filled kind where you're expected to find your calling like it's hidden behind a bush somewhere. I mean the quiet kind. The kind that shows up when you do something that matters to you, no matter how small. Purpose isn't a job title. It's not even a passion, necessarily. It's the meaning you bring to what you already do. If you're a parent, showing up with presence can be purpose. If you work in an office, being the person who encourages others can be purpose. If you make someone's day just a little easier or brighter, that's purpose, too. I once met a woman who ran a bakery out of her home. She wasn't making 6 figures. She wasn't an influencer. But she told me, every time someone bites into one of my pastries and smiles, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. That's what purpose feels like. Simple. Real. Rooted. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to go searching for it. You just have to start noticing what lights you up when you do it. Then do more of that. Let your purpose grow from what brings you alive, not what impresses other people. And if right now you're thinking, but I don't even know what lights me up anymore, that's okay. Start where you are. Follow your curiosity. Notice what catches your attention. Pay attention to the little moments that feel peaceful, joyful, or even just not heavy. That's the trail. Follow it. And lastly, because no talk about midlife joy would be complete without it, we have to touch on the people around you. Because let's face it, joy isn't just a solo mission. The people you allow into your world have a massive impact on how motivated and alive you feel. So take stock. Who lifts you up? Who drains you? Who listens without fixing? Who believes in the version of you that's still unfolding? This stage of life is the perfect time to reevaluate your circle, not out of judgment, but out of alignment. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your growth, not just your past. Who encourage your joy, not just your obligations. Find the people who laugh with you when you mess up. Who remind you of your worth when you forget. Who hold space when life gets heavy. That kind of connection, it makes the whole journey lighter. And if you don't have that right now, don't panic. Start by being that person for someone else. Kindness creates a ripple. Start the ripple. So, if you've been waiting for the perfect moment to start feeling better, this is it. Not because everything is fixed, but because you've just remembered that it's okay to want more, to feel more, to live more. Not in a rush, not all at once, but little by little, choice by choice. Joy isn't a destination. It's a practice. A daily decision to show up, even when it's imperfect, even when it's messy, and say, I'm still here. And I'm still becoming. There's something really beautiful about this phase of life that we don't talk about enough. You've made it through enough storms to know that you can survive. You've faced disappointments and got back up. You've built things, families, careers, friendships, homes. You've lost things, too. Time, perhaps, or people, or even parts of yourself. But here you are. Still standing. Still searching. Still hopeful, even if it's quiet. And that hope? That's sacred. Because in your 40s, something shifts. You stop chasing noise. You start craving peace. Not the passive kind of peace where everything's perfect, but the powerful kind, the one that comes from living in alignment with who you really are. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to the version of yourself you may have forgotten along the way. Maybe joy, for you, doesn't look like jumping out of airplanes or running marathons. Maybe it looks like Sunday mornings with coffee and a book. Maybe it's walking your dog without your phone. Maybe it's finally starting the garden you always said you'd try. Or letting yourself take up space in your own life again. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. There's only this question: what makes you feel most alive? Because here's the truth, joy doesn't have to be loud to be real. And motivation doesn't have to roar to be powerful. Some days, motivation looks like getting out of bed when your heart feels heavy. Some days, it looks like sending that message you've been putting off. Or saying no when you've always said yes. Or saying yes to yourself, maybe for the first time in a long while. You've spent years showing up for everyone else. And now? Maybe it's time to show up for you. There's a quiet revolution happening in your 40s if you let it. A return to authenticity. To purpose. To self-respect. You stop needing to prove. You stop pretending. You start choosing, with more intention, with more honesty, with more grace. And that choice, made day after day, that's what gets you out of the slump. It's not one magic moment. It's not some big life change. It's a slow reawakening. A remembering. A rebuilding. From the inside out. You might stumble. You might doubt yourself. That's okay. You're human. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. And presence, real presence, starts when you choose to meet yourself exactly where you are. So if today you're feeling a little lost, or tired, or unsure, I want to tell you something straight from the heart. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not too old to begin again. You are right on time. Midlife isn't an ending, it's an invitation. To live deeper, to feel more, to let go of the mask and finally breathe as yourself. You still have chapters to write. You still have dreams that matter. You still have mornings ahead of you filled with possibility and warmth and laughter and growth. But you don't have to wait for the perfect day, the perfect energy, or the perfect version of you to start. You just need to begin. Maybe tonight, you sit in silence for 5 minutes. Maybe tomorrow, you take a walk without checking your phone. Maybe next week, you say yes to that thing that's been tugging at your soul. Whatever it is, small or big, it matters. Because every time you choose yourself with love, with honesty, with care, you're writing a new story. One that doesn't just exist for others. One that belongs to you. So here's to you. To your courage. To your resilience. To your softness, your strength, your rediscovery. To the version of you that still believes in joy, even after everything. Especially after everything. You don't need to fix your whole life overnight. You don't need to be anyone other than who you already are, with all your questions and messiness and heart. Just take one small step, then another, and then another. That's how the fog lifts. That's how the spark returns. That's how you build a life that doesn't just look good from the outside, but feels good on the inside. So if this message landed with you today, if something stirred, if something softened, leave a comment and tell me where you are on your journey. What you're rediscovering, what you're letting go of, or what you're ready to claim for yourself again. And if this spoke to you in any way, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos like this, and share it with someone who might need the reminder too. We're in this together. You are not alone. Here's to living stronger, smarter, and happier, no matter the number on your ID. And remember, it's never too late to come back to life.